Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive. We're going to be talking about something that's, well, not the most exciting part of starting a business.
Definitely not as glamorous as, coming up with the next billion-dollar idea.
True, but super important nonetheless.
Absolutely crucial. I mean, we're talking about the legal and compliance stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that can really trip you up if you're not careful.
Exactly. It's like you've poured your heart and soul into this amazing idea,
You're ready to take on the world.
but then, bam, you hit a legal roadblock you didn't even know existed.
And suddenly you're dealing with lawsuits, fines.
Or even worse, your whole venture could be in jeopardy.
Okay, so let's break this down. First things first, you got to figure out the right legal structure for your startup.
Right. This is foundational. It impacts everything.
Access,
Oh, yeah. Big time.
liability,
Uh-huh.
and even your ability to attract investors.
It all comes back to this initial choice. And you've got options.
Lay 'em on me.
Okay, so you've got sole proprietorships, partnerships, LLCs, corporations.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It can be. Each one comes with its own pros and cons.
And I bet it gets confusing trying to figure out which one is right for you.
For sure. But a lot of startups, they gravitate towards LLCs or C Corp.
I've heard those thrown around, but honestly, I'm not quite sure what they mean.
So LLC stands for Limited Liability Company. And a C Corp is a C corporation.
Okay.
But the key takeaway here is that both of them offer a layer of protection.
Protection from what?
Well, they separate your personal assets from your business liabilities.
Oh, so if things go south with the business.
Your house, your car, your personal savings, they're shielded.
That's a huge relief, especially in those early uncertain stages.
Absolutely. It lets you take risks without putting everything on the line.
But wait, I've also heard that investors, especially venture capitalists, they really like C Corp. Why is that?
Well, C Corp have some attractive tax benefits, especially for startups pouring money into R&D.
Research and development.
Exactly. And they're generally seen as more scalable.
So if you're thinking big,
C Corp might be the way to go. But, and this is important, there's a trade-off.
there's always a trade-off.
Right. C Corps come with more regulatory requirements, more paperwork, more scrutiny.
So it's not a decision to take lightly.
Not at all. It's best to talk to a lawyer, an accountant.
Get some expert advice.
Absolutely. Figure out what structure aligns with your vision, your goals, your risk tolerance.
Got it. So you've got your legal structure in place. What's next?
Protecting your ideas.
Oh yeah, the heart and soul of your startup.
That's where trademarks, patents, and trade secrets come in.
Intellectual property. I knew there was a term for that.
Right. So first, you got to register your business.
With who?
Well, it depends on your location and industry, but it involves getting a tax ID, permits, complying with any specific regulations.
Okay, so dotting your I's and crossing your T's.
Exactly. Then you've got your intellectual property. Trademarks protect your brand.
Like your company name, your logo, your tagline.
All that good stuff. It's like putting a fence around your brand identity.
So no one else can just come along and use it.
Without your permission, nope.
Smart. And what about patents?
Patents are for inventions, unique products or technologies. They give you exclusive rights.
So no one else can copy your invention or profit from it.
Exactly. We've all heard horror stories about startups losing their brand names or inventions because they didn't protect them.
Ugh, that's a nightmare scenario.
It is. Don't let that be you. Protect your precious ideas.
Speaking of protecting things, I've heard that relationships between co-founders can be tricky.
Oh, yeah. Things can get messy when you're under pressure, navigating all the ups and downs of a startup.
And those ups and downs, they can put a strain on even the strongest friendships.
For sure. That's where a founder's agreement comes in. Think of it as a prenup for your business partnership.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It outlines each founder's roles and responsibilities, how equity is split, and most importantly, a process for decision-making.
So if disagreements arise,
You have a framework in place to navigate those challenges.
and hopefully avoid any major blowups.
Exactly. It sets clear expectations from the get-go.
So it's not about anticipating a split, but about having a plan in place just in case.
Right. It's like a safety net for your relationship and your business.
So what kind of stuff should this agreement address?
Things like how equity is divided, the vesting schedule, what happens if a founder wants to exit the business, how critical decisions are made, all that.
Okay, so really laying out the ground rules.
Exactly. It's better to have those tough conversations up front.
And avoid potential conflicts down the line.
Precisely. It sets the stage for a healthier and more successful partnership.
Awesome. Okay, let's move on to building your dream team, hiring employees.
Exciting times.
But I'm guessing there's some legal landmines here too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. One of the first things to understand is the difference between employees and independent contractors.
Okay, that sounds like a distinction with a difference.
It is, and misclassifying workers can get you in big trouble. Legal and financial trouble.
Give me an example.
Let's say you hire a web developer as a contractor to build your platform.
Sounds pretty standard.
Right, but then you're dictating their hours, requiring them to use specific software.
You're essentially treating them like an employee,
Exactly. And legally, they might be classified as an employee.
which means...
You're on the hook for payroll taxes, benefits, and you got to comply with all those employment laws.
Oh boy, that's a headache I don't need.
Right. So you got to be really careful about that classification.
So how do you know if someone's an employee or a contractor?
The key is control. How much control do you have over their work, their schedule, their methods?
Got it. And what about employment contracts? What should those look like?
Clear, concise, and legally sound. You need to outline roles, responsibilities, compensation, benefits, terms of employment.
All the nitty-gritty details.
Yep. And sometimes you might need confidentiality clauses or non-compete agreements.
To protect your sensitive information or your competitive edge.
Exactly. And of course, always be mindful of those broader employment laws.
Anti-discrimination, workplace safety, fair wage practice.
All that good stuff.
So much to keep in mind. It feels like a legal tightrope walk sometimes.
It can be, but remember, it's all about laying a solid foundation for your startup.
A foundation built on compliance.
Exactly. And speaking of foundations, let's talk taxes.
Everyone's favorite topic? Not.
I know, right? But ignoring taxes can be a real startup killer. Penalties, audits, cash flow problems.
It's enough to make you want to hide under a rock.
I hear ya, but it's unavoidable, so you gotta understand the types of taxes you're liable for.
Federal, state, local.
Could be all of those. And if you're operating internationally, you might have international taxes too.
It gets complicated fast.
It does, so meticulous record keeping is crucial.
Spreadsheets galore.
Or even better, accounting software. Track your income and expenses carefully. And it's always a good idea to get some guidance from a tax professional.
Someone who speaks the language of taxes fluently.
Exactly. They can help you identify deductions, plan for those upcoming liabilities, and make sure you're filing everything correctly and on time.
So a proactive approach to taxes can save you a lot of stress later on.
Absolutely. It's like preventative medicine for your startup's financial health.
I like that analogy. And speaking of health, let's talk about data privacy.
Oh, yeah. A huge topic these days.
Especially with all the data breaches and privacy scandals we're hearing about.
It's a big deal, and startups, they need to be extra careful.
So what are the rules of the road when it comes to data privacy?
Well, you've got regulations like GDPR in Europe and CCPA in the US.
GDPR and CCPA. I've heard those acronyms, but
They set some pretty strict standards for how businesses handle personal data.
what kind of data are we talking about?
Names, addresses, emails, browsing history, purchase history, all that stuff.
So basically everything that makes up our digital footprint.
Pretty much. And these regulations, they dictate how you collect that data, how you use it, how you store it, how you share it.
It's like a whole set of rules for how to be a responsible digital citizen.
Exactly. Think of it this way. You wouldn't just leave your front door unlocked, right?
Absolutely not.
Data privacy is kind of like that. You got to protect your customers' data.
So what can startups do to make sure they're handling data responsibly?
First and foremost, transparency. Be upfront with your customers about what data you collect, how you use it, and how you protect it.
So no sneaky fine print or hidden clauses.
Nope. Clear, concise, easy to understand language.
And what about security? How do you keep that data safe from hackers and cyber criminals?
Invest in strong cybersecurity measures, firewalls, encryption, multi-factor authentication.
It's like building a digital fortress around that data.
Exactly. And train your employees on data security best practices.
Because even the strongest fortress can be compromised by a single careless mistake.
Very true. So building a culture of data privacy and security, it's crucial.
So we've talked about legal structure, intellectual property, employment, taxes, data privacy. It's a lot.
It is, but remember, it's all about laying that solid foundation.
A foundation for growth, for success, for a sustainable business.
Exactly. And speaking of growth, many startups dream of scaling big, achieving massive growth.
Becoming the next unicorn.
Maybe. And to do that, they often need to raise capital.
Venture capital, angel investors, crowdfunding.
All those exciting possibilities. But, and this is important, raising capital comes with its own set of legal and compliance
And that's
hurdles.
like a whole new level of the game.
It is. So you got to be prepared. Understand securities laws, comply with regulations when issuing stock options, working with investors.
It sounds complicated.
It can be, so having a good lawyer on your side is essential.
Someone who can guide you through the maze.
Exactly. And just like with data privacy, transparency is key.
Be upfront with your investors. Provide accurate financials. Disclose any risks.
Build that trust, that strong foundation for a successful partnership.
Okay, this has been incredibly helpful. It's clear that legal and compliance, while not the most glamorous part of starting a business, is absolutely essential.
It's the backbone of a sustainable, successful, and ethical venture.
And that's what we all want, right?
Okay.
A business that not only thrives, but also does good in the world.
Absolutely. Compliance isn't just about avoiding trouble. It's about building a better business, a better future.
Well said. So to all you startup founders out there, take compliance seriously. It's an investment in your future, your success, and your peace of mind. Don't let it be an afterthought. Make it a priority from day one.
I couldn't agree more.
Welcome back to our deep dive. Let's get right back into it.
Yeah, we're ready to keep exploring those crucial legal and compliance details.
The stuff that can really make or break your startup.
Sure.
Last time, we covered a lot of ground.
But we did. We talked about choosing the right business structure, protecting your intellectual property.
Employment law, taxes, data privacy.
It's all connected.
Now let's get even more specific.
Okay, let's zoom in on some industry-specific regulations.
Because it's not a one-size-fits-all situation, right?
Definitely not. Different industries have different rules of the road.
I like that analogy.
So you got to know what you're getting into.
Give me some examples.
Okay, let's say you're building a fintech startup. You're handling people's money.
High stakes.
Very high stakes. So
Yes.
you're stepping into a heavily regulated space.
And rightfully so.
Absolutely. Think of it like building a bank, even if it's a digital one.
Okay, I'm following.
You're going to have to comply with things like KYC and AML regulations.
KYC and AML.
Know your customer and anti-money laundering.
Okay,
They sound intimidating, I know.
a little bit.
But they're there for a reason. They're designed to prevent financial crimes,
Why?
fraud, money laundering, even terrorism financing.
Yeah, okay, that puts it into perspective.
It's about building trust, ensuring the integrity of the whole financial system.
So it's not just about your startup.
It's about the bigger picture.
Got it.
So imagine you're building a platform for investments or international money transfers.
Okay, yeah.
KYC regulations would require you to verify your users' identities, assess their risk profiles, monitor transactions.
Looking for anything suspicious.
Exactly. It's about being a responsible player in the financial world.
It's not just about building a cool app.
It's about building a responsible system.
That protects your users and the whole financial ecosystem.
Exactly. Okay, let's switch gears to healthcare.
Another industry with high stakes.
Extremely high stakes. We're talking about people's health here.
And their sensitive data.
Right. So if you're building a health tech startup, you're dealing with HIPAA compliance.
High pay. It rings a bell.
Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act.
It's all coming back to me now.
Good, because HIPAA sets strict standards for protecting health information.
Like medical records.
Exactly. So imagine you're building an app that lets patients access their records or share information with their doctors.
Okay.
HIPAA dictates how you store that data, who can access it, what security measures you need to prevent breaches.
You got to keep that information locked down.
Absolutely. It's some of the most sensitive data out there.
So fintech and healthcare, two industries with some serious compliance hurdles.
For sure. But there are others too.
Right.
E-commerce is a big one. You're dealing with online transactions, customer data, potentially international shipping.
A lot of moving parts.
It is. So you've got consumer protection laws, data privacy regulations like GDPR and CCPA, import-export rules.
It's a lot to keep track of.
It can be overwhelming. But knowledge is power, right?
Right.
Do your research. Seek expert advice. Stay informed. It's like learning a new language.
The language of legal and compliance.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say you've done your homework, you understand the industry-specific rules.
Good.
Are there any general best practices that apply to all startups?
Absolutely. One of the most important things, document everything.
Everything.
Well, maybe not every single thing, but keep meticulous records of your business activities.
Contracts, agreements, employee info, financial transactions.
All that good stuff. It's like leaving a breadcrumb trail.
So you can always retrace your steps.
Exactly. And it can be a lifesaver if you ever face an audit, a lawsuit, or any kind of legal challenge.
It's like having receipts for all your business decisions.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Showing that you've been operating responsibly and transparently.
makes sense. And what about contracts?
Oh, yeah, those are crucial. And it's not just employment contracts.
Close.
You'll probably be dealing with vendor agreements, partnership agreements, NDAs, customer terms of service.
A whole bunch of agreements.
It's how you outline the rules of engagement with different stakeholders.
So those agreements, they got to be clear, concise, and legally sound.
Exactly. Don't just grab a generic template online.
Get some expert help with those.
Yes, it's worth investing in legal advice when drafting or reviewing contracts.
Think of it as having a skilled architect designing your business relationships.
That's a great way to put it.
It's better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely. Those agreements can prevent a lot of misunderstandings and disputes.
Okay, so we've talked about documentation, contracts. What else?
Communication.
Communication is key, as always.
It's so important. Keep your team in the loop about legal and compliance policies
Make sure they understand their responsibilities.
and there are potential consequences if those policies aren't followed.
Right. Create a culture where people feel comfortable asking questions, raising concerns,
Exactly. It's about fostering a culture of accountability.
where everyone feels empowered to do the right thing.
That's what we're aiming for. And beyond your internal team, communicate transparently with your customers.
About your data privacy practices, your terms of service.
All that. It builds trust, shows that you respect their rights.
It's the right thing to do.
Absolutely. And it's not just about avoiding legal trouble. It's about being ethical, building a trustworthy business.
Okay, this is all great advice. But I gotta be honest, sometimes this stuff feels a bit abstract.
I get it.
Do you have any real-world examples, stories that might make this all a bit more relatable?
Of course. So one example that comes to mind is a startup I worked with a while back. They were developing this amazing medical device.
That's cool.
It was. They were so passionate about getting it out there, helping people.
Yeah, that's great.
But in all that excitement, they kind of overlooked some key regulatory steps. Yeah. They had to delay their launch by months while they scrambled to get their paperwork in order, comply with all the regulations.
Ouch, that must have been a tough pill to swallow.
It was a costly mistake, both in terms of time and money.
A hard lesson learned?
It is. It highlights how important it is to balance that passion with a respect for the rules.
Don't let excitement overshadow the details.
Right. Another example I've seen is startups struggling with intellectual property.
Not protecting their ideas.
Exactly. Imagine you come up with this awesome logo, you're ready to launch, but you forget to register the trademark.
Oh no,
Someone else could come along, use your logo, and there's nothing you can do.
that's a nightmare.
It is. It's like leaving your front door wide open, inviting someone to take whatever they want.
Protect those ideas.
Definitely. And speaking of protecting things, let's circle back to raising capital.
We talked about it briefly before.
We did. It's a big step for a lot of startups.
It's exciting, but also comes with its own complexities.
For sure. Whether you're going the VC route, seeking angel investors, or doing crowdfunding, there are rules.
You gotta play the game.
Exactly. So understand the different types of securities, like stocks and bonds, and how they're regulated.
That sounds complicated.
It can be. So having a good lawyer on your side is crucial.
Someone who speaks fluent securities law.
Exactly. And just like with everything else, transparency is key. Be upfront with potential investors.
Show them your financials, your business plan, your team's credentials.
Help them assess the risks and the potential rewards.
Build that trust.
It's essential, but it's a two-way street. You need to understand the terms of any investment agreement before you sign.
Don't be afraid to ask questions, negotiate, even walk away if it's not the right fit.
It's your business, your dream. You need to protect it, make sure you're partnering with people who share your vision.
It's not just about getting the money.
It's about finding the right partners, building a relationship based on trust and shared goals.
I'm seeing how compliance, while often overlooked, is really the backbone of a successful business.
It is. It's not just about avoiding trouble. It's about building a stronger, more ethical business.
A business that can thrive and make a positive impact.
Exactly. It's an opportunity, not a burden.
It's about doing the right thing, not just because you have to, but because it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely. So as you continue on this journey, remember, knowledge is power.
Stay informed, seek expert advice, never stop learning and growing.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been so helpful. We've covered so much. Industry-specific regulations, general best practices, real-world examples, the whole shebang.
We tried to cover it all.
So What's the one key message you want our listeners to take away?
Compliance isn't just about mitigating risks, it's about building a better business.
A business that's ethical, responsible, and worthy of trust.
Exactly. That trust is the foundation for sustainable success.
It's what sets apart the good from the great.
It's what allows businesses to make a real difference in the world.
And we're back, wrapping up our deep dive into the world of legal and compliance for startups. But this time, we're switching gears a bit.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the human side of compliance.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It's not enough to just have policies and procedures, written down somewhere.
Right, they need to be put into action.
Exactly. You got to make sure those policies are being lived and breathed every single day by everyone in the startup.
So it's about creating a culture of compliance, right?
Exactly. It's got to be woven into the DNA of the company.
So how do you actually do that? Where do you even start?
Well, it all starts at the top.
With the founders, the leaders.
Yeah, they need to set the example.
Lead by example. Walk the walk.
Exactly. If the leaders are cutting corners, bending the rules,
It sends the wrong message.
big time. But if they're consistently doing things the right way, making ethical decisions, holding themselves accountable.
It sets a powerful precedent for the whole company.
Absolutely.
So, beyond leadership, what else contributes to this culture of compliance?
Open communication is huge. Make sure employees have easy access to the policies, the procedures.
No one's left in the dark.
Right. And provide regular training. Make it a part of the onboarding process,
Keep everyone up to speed.
And create an environment where people feel safe speaking up.
If they see something that's not right.
Exactly. No fear of retaliation.
A culture of transparency and trust.
That's it. And don't forget about recognition. When someone goes above and beyond to do the right thing, acknowledge it.
Celebrate those wins.
It reinforces those positive behaviors. And on the flip side, when mistakes happen, when there are instances of non-compliance,
Don't just jump to punishment.
right, use it as a learning opportunity.
Help people understand why compliance matters. Make better decisions in the future.
Exactly. It's about growth, not just blame.
This is all making so much sense, but it's an ongoing process, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's not a one-time fix. As your startup grows, your compliance needs will evolve too.
New regulations, new challenges.
Exactly. You got to stay proactive, stay informed.
And it's okay to ask for help along the way.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to reach out to experts, compliance consultants, lawyers, mentors.
There's a whole community out there.
People who've been there, done that. They're usually happy to share their wisdom.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. We've covered so much ground.
We have. From the nitty-gritty details to the big picture.
It's clear that building a strong foundation in legal and compliance is crucial for any startup that wants to succeed.
Couldn't agree more. It's not just about avoiding trouble, it's about building a better business.
A business that's ethical, responsible, trustworthy.
And that trust is what ultimately leads to long-term success.
It's what sets apart the good from the great.
It's what allows businesses to make a real difference in the world.
Absolutely. So, to all you founders out there, building your dreams, embrace compliance, make it a part of your journey.
It's an investment worth making.
Keep learning, keep growing, and remember, doing the right thing is always the best path to success.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
That's a wrap for the deep dive. Until next time, keep building, keep learning, and keep doing good.